welcome everyone to the 9th episode of This Is For Me, Girl Stuff podcast with Tarn and
Rampy. Hello.
Good morning, guys. It is a good morning from us because it is the morning here. It is a Sunday morning at around 8:30 a.m.
Technically, this is 7:30 because we are doing this on the day that the time has changed, but it doesn't feel like it.
No, it does not. But there's a little bit of snow outside. It was a nice drive because I drove to Rempy's house. So it was a nice drive. And a little unexpected annoyance with the Timmy's lady. But what's new? What's new in Brampton, right? But if that Timmy's lady is listening to this, girly, I don't know if you let my payment go through. So that's on you. If I left without paying, I could have waited. You, the nobody got easy, and there's nobody behind me. So you must be having a bad day. Hopefully somebody can brighten that day. It clearly was not going to be me because it just wasn't me.
Funny enough, though, they're working less hours today, so they should be happier. You know what I mean? Technically, well, shouldn't they, right? Your shift is going to cut down if you started at that time. Well, if she started at 2 a.m, her shift should have been cut shorter. But anyways, it's a different situation we're getting into. Maybe she's just pissed off because of the time change.
Could be.
Know what's going on in people's lives.
It could be.
She could have had like a fight with her husband before coming to work, maybe.
Yeah, it could be. And, but yeah, what is today's topic?
Today's topic is apologizing to oneself, or writing apology letters to ourselves that we've never gotten, or just simply apologize.
This is our legal disclaimer. Please note that we are not medical professionals or licensed psychologists/therapists. Thoughts, opinions, and comments made within each episode are solely our own. If you require serious medical or psychological help, please consult a professional, as we are just two girlies trying to support the sisterhood of the shit show of what it could be to be a Punjabi girl.
To ourselves for different situations, variations, and a process of self-healing.
Yeah, absolutely. So today we decided, that we should write ourselves a letter that we wished somebody would actually say to us. So pretty much it's an apology letter that we wrote to ourselves for those people who we felt, in our lives, could be whoever they are. We deserved an apology from them for whatever the reason was. We've been hurt by these people or whatever. Because sometimes, again, closure isn't always something you receive. So sometimes you need to find a way to get that closure for yourself, get that apology for yourself, and, begin the process of moving on and healing from whatever that hurt was. Mm-hmm. So I hope this, allows someone out there to really, really get into that healing process for this particular type of situation if you're really dealing with it, right? Because it sucks when somebody hurts you, and we all absolutely deserve an apology. So before we even get started, I'm just going to say I'm sorry to all of you who have been hurt by someone and you haven't received the acknowledgement of the hurt that they provided to you, unfortunately. Some people just don't have the consideration or have the strength to get to that part of their lives, but you can do that for yourself. So this is what we're trying to show you all today.
Agreed.
So who would like to go first?
You can go first.
Okay, I will go first. All right, guys. So this is the apology letter that I wrote to myself. All right, here it goes. Dear Tarn, here's an apology that has been owed to you by many individuals who came into your life and didn't respect or value you. I'm sorry that people took advantage of your kindness. I'm sorry they didn't bother to see the amazing person you are and how selfless you can become for others while expecting nothing in return. You always wonder why people hurt you time and time again, and you still feel the need to do good for others and not take the negativity that has come your way as a hurdle to stop you from being the authentic person you know yourself to be. You have always prided yourself for being true to who you are and genuinely loving yourself. Maybe that's what's caused the hurt that you have received from others. Maybe they weren't as strong as you, so take it as a compliment. Just know, those who are no longer in your life miss you. You know they talk about you and don't acknowledge their wrongdoings, but shift the blame. You know they wish that you were still a part of their life, as you brought them so much joy and happiness, and you are such a positive influence who always till this day want the best for others and just want them to thrive. You get so excited for others' accomplishments and achievements, and I'm sorry it's not always reciprocated back. Those people who have hurt you didn't deserve your kindness. They didn't deserve such an amazing person to be a part of their lives. They always realized the true worth you had once they had lost you. I know you have moved past the hurt and see it as a sign from the universe that it wasn't meant to last. Those people were either placed into your life to have you learn a lesson about yourself or for you to teach them something. Whatever the reason may be, the universe is aligning your life into the most fruitful version you can ever imagine. Don't feel bad for ever giving your all to people who now didn't deserve it. Be proud of how you always try to find the good in others. I'm so sorry that you will never get the apology you deserve, but that's okay. You know who you are and what your worth is, and at the end of the day, it's their loss for losing a treasure in an ocean filled with meaningless individuals they have around them. So that is my apology letter to myself. I got a little deep, guys.
That's a lot. Like, that's a lot because you're being very raw, honest, truthful, and that's your perception of it. So even if some individuals who perhaps have been in your life or not in your life, or whoever perhaps listens may not agree with it, and that's perfectly fine with it too, right? But that's how your perception of it is. So I think that's very powerful.
Yeah.
I think it was very honest, and I don't think you can do better than that.
Yeah, no, thank you. I literally, it was like, I think Thursday, I sat down and I started writing it, and it just kept flowing, and I think one of the things that I realized about myself, that I'm very fortunate to have this type of thought process is, sometimes people, when they're hurt, they internalize it quite literally. And that's just their process, right? That's just how they are. For example, let's say in a relationship, I'm just giving a brief example because this is a very common example. Let's say, unfortunately, somebody was hurt by their boyfriend or they were cheated on or whatever the case is. It stays with them for so long. And I'm so sorry for those who have dealt with that, because it's not easy. But they have a right to have it stick, but at the same time, how long are you going to let it stick before you start healing is my way of thinking. So with that being said, for people who have hurt me in my life, yes, they've hurt me, but for some reason, I don't I don't let it linger. Yeah. Like, for example, past people in my lives, like, I could easily say, like, oh my God, they've scarred me, or like they've really fucked me up, right? I don't think I've really ever allowed someone to do that to me, because I don't know, just because maybe I've had too much going on in life sometimes, and my mind goes to, why am I gonna let that stick? What's the point of that? Like, I hate victimizing myself. I hate portraying myself as a victim. To each their own at the end of the day, but for me, like, there's definitely a lot of different situations that I've gone through from as a child to even now. Life hasn't always been the easiest for me in particular. And that's okay. That's just how life was, right? Life's a roller coaster. Sometimes you're going through the loops of the actual roller coaster. Sometimes you're waiting for the ride to leave, start. Sometimes you're at the peak of it, okay? And you're still sitting there. There's different aspects of the roller coaster in my mind that you can be on. And so there's highs and lows. That's exactly how I describe it. So it is what it is. It's life. You can say life's a bitch. You can say whatever you want to say. It's life, right? You can make the most out of it for yourself. But for me, I don't like to victimize myself. So yes, pretty much my point is that I don't let it linger. I don't let it attach. I don't let the hurt attach itself to me like that. I don't know if maybe as a child I did, but now I don't really. Like, I could go through whatever it is, like friendship wise, relationship wise, whatever it is. Like, there's certain things where even you, Rempy, you're like, it's okay to cry. Like, people have said this to me. Like, and I'm like, maybe it's just one of those situations where I just didn't feel like it. I processed it in a way that worked for me. And like, there's this one situation, over 6 months ago, and everyone's like, are you okay? Like, so-and-so. And I was like, yeah, I'm fine. And like, it's literally over half a year later, and I'm chilling. I'm doing great. I'm better than ever. And it's, you know, it's just, that's just how I kind of function. But yeah, that's what I think is one thing that I did really realize about myself recently, is that I don't let things like that attach itself. And it's not that I'm not acknowledging it, and because sometimes when people don't attach it, they are in denial and they don't let the hurt like they don't experience the hurt, and they're not healing. My thing is, like, I've dealt with it, like done what I need to do for my healing journey, and then I'm letting go. That's what it is for me. So there's a difference between being in denial and not really acknowledging it, and a difference between acknowledging it, working on what you needed to in that, learning from certain things, and letting it go.
I think that's what it is. Everyone has their different journeys, processes, and stuff, and perhaps sometimes when, you know, people hear those different things, they're like, what do you mean? And that's why I say to you sometimes too, I'm like, it's okay to, like, you know, be whatever. But again, that's everyone's process and journey, and that's what goes to show that people are different, which is perfectly fine too. It's not that big of a deal for that.
But yeah, alrighty. So I believe it is your turn.
It is. I'm looking at that. Look, when I speak, the microphone, it's like I'm talking the same volume, I think. Oh, now it's coming fine. The fuck? Sorry, guys. Technical difficulties over here.
Yeah, there's a point where I was like, is your mic even working?
It is, but, like, I guess I'm not projecting into it enough because I just charged these.
Yeah, I think I've noticed this in general when we record, that maybe I'm just hella loud, but yours shows up as a different frequency than mine. So when I speak, I realize it is working, because at one point I was about to stop the recording because, like, are we wasting?
Imagine.
Yeah. But anyways, side note, guys.
All right, time for my letter. All right, so, dear self, I'm sorry for not believing in you. You have allowed the outside world to control your thoughts and emotions for the longest time about how you should be perceived. I'm sorry for believing what others said to you in anger, that you won't, that you can't, and that you shouldn't. I'm sorry for not standing up for you sooner. I'm sorry for giving away your power to people who hurt you. You were naive to be under the notion that the world was a nice place where people would respect your feelings and understand boundaries. In your whole life, you have been running from confronting others when your boundaries were not respected. I'm sorry that you felt bad about setting boundaries and not being a people pleaser anymore. I'm sorry for not going after some of the changes or opportunities you had gotten earlier because you did not think you were worth it. You thought you did not deserve those options. I'm sorry that you allowed your emotions to be your weakness instead of your strength. You always told yourself that you were too emotional, and of course in some cases that was a situation, but you always kept putting yourself down due to that. I'm sorry for blaming you, shaming you, and inflicting you with constant guilt. I'm sorry for pressuring you to complete crazy to-do lists. You have many things always on the go, but you do deserve some downtime, which is what people tell me all the time. I'm sorry for not continuously prioritizing you. I'm sorry that you felt you needed to be accepted by everybody else. I'm sorry you felt you had to be silent to be accepted. I'm sorry that you could not be your authentic self to others out of fear that they would not accept you. And I'm sorry it took this long to accept yourself.
Wow. That was great. Like, you touched on so many things that I know you've worked on for yourself. Just, you know, acknowledging that it's okay to be yourself. It's okay to be your authentic self. It's okay to feel. It's okay to say no. It's okay to put yourself first. So many things that I know you work towards. You were placing that in your apology, and, you know, that was amazing. Like, and
it took a long time to get there, and now to even like thinking about writing it out, and I was like, can I get to that vulnerability level? Do I want to get to that level? Like, where is my head at? So, yeah.
I've always appreciated people who have layers to themselves, right? There's lots of, we talked about, I'm pretty sure we've mentioned this term in various episodes, surface level people. It's great to have surface level people in your life, but at the end of the day, in my opinion, right, this is just how I function, I gotta have people who have layers, depth and layers. It's just, it shows, you know, your ability to just be an authentic person in various different aspects, and the vulnerability shows up, right? If you're just such a surface level person, how am I supposed to get to know you? How am I supposed to build a friendship, a relationship, whatever the case is, right? With that individual. And it might just be that that person is scared to get to that level for themselves yet, and that's okay.
Yeah.
But I think just don't drag somebody along for the ride if you're not ready to be authentic with yourself.
It's so important, and I think many of the things that I mentioned also correlate to like culturally, right? That you're not supposed to prioritize others, right? Yes, to an extent, obviously, but it goes in different variations. And if you're not happy with yourself, then you cannot be happy, express happiness or be happy with others. It's really important. It's not something that we understand. I think for a long time, even since we were kids, we're okay, let's do this, let's do that. But are you sitting with yourself and saying, like, what do I want to do? Like, am I happy with myself? Like, figuring stuff out. One of the biggest thing was putting myself down or my emotions. The longest time since I was young, I always knew I was more emotional. It could be because I'm a Cancer sign. I believe in that to an extent, right? So horoscope, whatever. And I am. I'm moody, emotional, and all that kind of stuff. And I always thought, like, it was, like, such a, I'll find someone when I can get my emotions under control. Like, I always had that in my mind for whatever reason. I don't know if it was instilled. I don't think it was instilled in me. I think I just had that belief that, I'm too emotional, hence I can't, this, that, whatever. And then I slowly was like, no. Like, it is who I am. I do jump to conclusions. That is something that's separate, but that's things that you can work on, and you should be happy that at least I am emotional, so making my strength versus my weakness. And then having to be silent, it's like the typical brown notion, be quiet, you don't need to be heard, blah, 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 all that kind of stuff. And over time, it's like, no, speak. And I was like, what do you mean speak? What am I going to say now? I was quiet for so long, and now I'm supposed to speak? Like, what the fuck? Again, not like I was silenced, but it was kind of like, oh, your opinion is like, growing up, or especially living in Canada, it's like your opinion does matter when you go to school and stuff, and they vocalize and they say speak up and whatever. But when you're around the household and you're still like in your teenage 20 years, that's when you start thinking you know everything and you don't know shit. But we start thinking that we do, and we want to voice our opinions, but it gets a little tricky for that. But I guess it's just coming into that, learning on your own, and just getting to the point where you are now. If you go ask my fam, especially with like my immediate, they'll come to me. They're like, you're the voice of reason. I'm like, oh, it's about time you realize that. They'll be like, listen to her, she knows what's going on. I'm like, yeah, I do, man.
No, I love that, because it's so, like, it's true, right? At some point they realize certain things where they possibly saw it as a weakness, but it's now a strength, right?
Mm-hmm.
And it's crazy, because like, yeah, I'm always put into the same position now. Like, not that I was I don't think the silence, like, in like, I guess not saying that we were silenced, but like, what I'm trying to say is that I don't know, I just always rebelled with my voice.
Mm-hmm.
I wasn't like a rebellious kid at all. Like, compared to me and my brother, like, if people asked like my non-gay, right, because like my masis and my nani, like, like, they pretty much like raised me, especially because like they came a few months before I was born, right, from India. So they would always say, especially because my brother was like, I guess for like a year and a half or two, he was like an only child, right?
Lucky.
So he was like an only child for like, what, 2 years?
The attention. That's what happens with the older children, man.
Yeah, because like,
and then you little fools come along.
Yeah. Oh, wow, great.
We gotta share the attention.
So he had like full attention from my mom and dad, right? Because they pretty much had to raise him for the first 2 years alone, right? And so then by the time I was born, like, there was more family members to help raise me, right? While they were like working and everything. So I was raised very, like, it was a very, like, I guess, different in like my first, like, in general. So they would always say like, oh, like, because it was he had to learn to have other people around him. He was just so used to mom and dad that it was a hard notion, right, I guess, for him to kind of take on in his mind, where I was comfortable with all this family because that's just what I grew up in, right? So they would be like, yeah, like, she was an easy baby. He was like a little bit difficult because, again, he had to do a bit of a transition. So I was never like a rebellious kid. Like, I always listened to like my parents. Like, literally I was like the goody two shoes kid overall, but I was opinionated. It was weird. It was like a double-edged sword. Like, I I would be completely the best kid ever, no complaint, but I spoke my mind. So sometimes I literally had to just be quiet just because I'm like, this is gonna cause a problem. But now, like, again, similar to you, everybody comes to me like, oh, like, this, that, and I'm like, y'all need to chill, because girls trying to prep for her future here, just...
I'm gonna tell you one thing straight up, is it just gets more as time progresses. So if you think now that they're gonna be off you, no, you have another thing coming for you, trust me. And once you, like, get onto your next stages and stuff, then it's, like, more, because there's a lot more people in your lives, and it just keeps going. You have to just learn how to maneuver that, just saying.
Yeah, for sure. But, so today we really wanted to hone in on the fact that it's okay to want an apology from someone, and if they're not going to give it to you, maybe write this out. This could be a healing, it could be a healing exercise, right? You learn a lot from yourself when you do this, because again, we touched on things that we learned about ourselves, right? And you don't always have to see what you've learned about yourself in a negative. Like, for example, in my letter, I specifically laid out that you don't have to be upset with yourself for seeing the good in others. Actually be proud of yourself for that, because not everybody has that capability. So there's certain things, you can really realize, and it's really good to do healing exercises every once in a while. So we thought it would be, actually Rempe came up with this idea, and I was like, yeah, I'm down, it's happening, we're doing it. And we decided to just go with it.
But it's so hard because, like, okay, thinking about it in my head, I'm like, congrats, such a, like, wonderful thing to do. And when I had to sit there, and that's where, people get stuck, right? Is when you sit there, you're like, okay, but what does it mean to me, right? Because, like we saw, both of us have different variations of it. I still touched upon it, but I said it in a different perspective, and you said it in yours, and that's perfectly fine as well. But when I sat there, I'm like, what am I going to write? Like, what do I say, right? So, yes, I Googled for, like, I did write some things, and I was Googling it, and I was like, okay, what potential, because people out there are doing all kind of stuff all the time anyways, and I have a problem, I admit it, I don't ask for help. I'm very like, fuck this shit, I'll figure it out on my own, this, that, whatever. I've always been like that, from a very young age. And so I was like, okay, let me see what's out there, and that actually gave insight, because there are people who do this, and they actually do, like you said, consider it as a healing exercise, and it like makes you in touch with having to be vulnerable to yourself. Like, you don't have to announce it to people like we are, but just to yourself, to have that acknowledgement and recognition that, hey, these are these things that's happened to me, or perhaps some things I've said, done to myself, or have been inflicted due to others. But at least you get to that point where, like, okay, and you can kind of start registering it, moving on from it, working on it. It doesn't mean that we're completely healed by this, but it's acknowledgement, which is like a great big step.
You're always a work in progress, guys. And there's a quote from this one poetry book. Sometimes I like to read like little poetry stanzas. I'm a pretty big on reading, and so it's this one quote that I came across. Sorry, I'm about to sneeze. Bless you. Thank you. That came at the most weird time. I think another one's coming.
Bless you.
Thank you. Okay.
Don't get sick, madam.
No, it's probably my mother wondering where the hell I am. You know,
she knows where she go early in the morning on a
Even
Sunday.
though I told her. Yeah,
doesn't matter.
Yeah. All right. Cutting this part out. All right. So, there's this book that this poetry book that has this one saying that really sticks to me, and it's there's no rush in figuring out one's soul. So, that's always stuck with me, because we're always in a rush to figure ourselves out. We're always in a rush for the next step. We're always in a rush for this, that, whatever it is. It could be something within our day, or the future, or a short-term goal, whatever it is. There is no rush. Just head on that path and let it go. Let it go in the direction it needs to. Especially, I guess, like in brown girl life, one of the biggest things I think that some people may possibly rush, again, this is just my opinion, to each their own. Sometimes some girls are such a rush into, getting married, finding someone, right? That happens so often, where just because of the situation they're in, they think that maybe that might be the best thing for them. Whatever, right? Yeah, and I empathize with those who are in really shitty situations. I totally, like, it sucks, but you don't always have to force things, is what I'm trying to say. You can just, let it go as it needs to be. But yeah, when I was writing my letter, at one point I felt, God, why does this sound so repetitive? To me, right? Like, sometimes I think that when I'm writing some things down, I'm like, am I just repeating myself? But when I read it out loud right now, I was like, no, I actually didn't. Which I was like, oh. But yeah, because mine ends up sounding in a certain type of way, I notice, just because, like, sometimes I like to write, so I have lots of notes pages where I write, and sometimes
that's your voice.
That's just how I process. I do lots of different things to just process in general, if that's writing it out. Again, the podcast helps, whatever the case is. But yeah, I think the last thing that I want to say is that the reason for us doing this wasn't for us, quite honestly. It was to open up a door for all of you. That
think about, like, maybe you should. You won't get those apologies from others, from whoever who may have harmed you or not, or you may think has done something to you, and technically maybe they haven't. Maybe it's just your perception of a situation, and that's fine too, right? It could go either way. But sometimes if you start just taking that ownership and giving yourself the apology, then that's one step closer for you to have yourself healing, versus sometimes you're just like kind of like midair, just thinking about stuff or letting it get to you, and it shouldn't, because we have a life to live. We only got one. You might as well enjoy yourselves and do the best you can for yourself. Amen. Forget, regardless of thinking about these things that we do. We all go to that place. Sometimes comes and goes, things happen, we start thinking, and we're like, what? And then if you realize how much time, and I'm a victim of this, not the right word, but whatever. Yeah, I'm a victim of this. I have spent so much time worrying about utter bullshit, and it has added no value to my life. Literally. And that's why now, whenever people are like, hey, I'm like, just give up, let it go, fuck it, like, just move on, distract yourself, do something else. Because I have spent so much time thinking, what about this, or what if this, or why did this happen, or what about that? And especially like in my teenagers, to be honest, like in my 20s, now I don't have time for that, but still, like, sometimes your mind goes there sometimes, and you just gotta be like, no, like, fuck it, go on. Why are we gonna sit around, like, about thinking about, okay, like, people not, my silence example, right? Okay, I'm gonna reiterate on that. Kid-wise and stuff, we're still babies and stuff. Our parents don't take us so fucking seriously. Hence, like, relax, that you don't know anything. Now they're like, no, you get it. But other aspects of my life also caused me to be a little bit more quieter and stuff. But why am I gonna now allow that to continue to happen? Move on. You have a voice, do your beautiful things, move on with your life, and focus on that.
Yeah, and I think when you start to apologize to yourself, and you're unfortunately sometimes still around those people who have hurt you, because again, not always do those people leave your life, but the relationships can be just not the same. It becomes easier being around them, because you don't look at them and you're like, fuck you for what you did to me. Because sometimes that's the thought, right? You just look at them like, all right, it is what it is, and sometimes you're just you feel like
bad for them, because once you get out of your actual situation and you look at it and you see, like, sometimes, like, the portrayal of others of how they're living their life is not necessarily how their life is. And that's an exact measure of what we see on social media, is that there is a portrayal of someone's life but not actually what is going on. And you live in the misconception that, oh, the way they're portraying it, they must have a beautiful life. You don't know what demons people are fighting, and why would you allow yourself to be affected by those who aren't even happy within their lives?
Yep, absolutely.
And you'll never know who is and who isn't. Just be happy with yourself and move on.
Yep. But that is what I had for today. Anything else you would like to add on?
I won't know how it's going to be perceived, but I will. So, I love it that we have such an expressive lifestyle now. We can go online and put whatever we want out there, and I agree. But sometimes be very conscious of what you are putting out there, because it can come back and bite you in the bum. And that goes for anything. Sometimes we're like pissed and we're like putting in whatever, and it will come bite you in the ass. So for people, recently there's been things going around social media, I'm not gonna say where, and yes, share your experiences, share whatever is going on, but maybe do it a little bit later down the line when you've had the chance to heal so you can express yourself, and you've given yourself that time to think about it. When you're in the moment, when you're in anger, a lot of things are said and done that you regret later. So be mindful of those kind of things.
Yeah.
That's it.
Yeah, pretty much take a step to reflect before, sometimes you gotta just stop and think before you do something, right? But yeah, that was it for today. We hope that you guys can take on some of, the thoughts that we had today and maybe use it in your own life, right? Like if this made you feel that you really want to write a letter to yourself, please go do it. I would be so happy to hear that. Or even if somebody reaches out to be like, hey, I did this, like if that's the case and you want to let us know how you felt after writing it and reading it out loud, please let us know. 100%. We would love to hear from you guys about that. But yeah, we hope this helps anyone on their healing journey, because it definitely made us feel really good in acknowledging certain things about ourselves. Again, self-reflection is really important, right? Yes. But yeah, we hope you guys have a great week, and we will chat with you soon.
Have an awesome week, an awesome adjustment to this beautiful time change, because remember, it's going to start getting lighter earlier, so we got to think about the positive.
Yes, great weather is here. But alrighty, that's it for today's episode, and we will talk to you guys later.
Thank you.
Bye.